So we're delighted to be joined by Peter Cunnah of D Ream, and thank you so much for being here. And thanks so much for giving your time, especially during lockdown as well, to come in.
It's my hometown, and Nerve Centre's an important thing for Derry, to be honest. Yeah. So I'm delighted. Cool. Anything to not be in the house, locked down.
I think we're all feeling the same.
Absolutely.
And especially for musicians as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, let's start at the start. And I always like to ask musicians, when you were younger, was there a lightning rod moment for you? Was there a point at which you said, I can do that, I want to do that?
Bizarrely, that's a great question. Bizarrely, I was probably rising up the charts just about in 1990. And I found, because I was adopted at birth, I also got contacted by my natural mother. So I went to see her with my adopted mother. And we walked through the door and she said, put the kettle on, so we sat down. And I found out from her that she was the lead singer, and she fell pregnant with the MD, guitar player and trombone player. And that was the moment, I was 21. That was the moment I realised, this is why I do what I do. And you know, as you know, musicians, you've got to have a bit of neck on you to stand up and put yourself above the parapet and attract all that criticism. Mm-hmm. I never cared about that. I just was driven to do it. And when you get that moment, that's the kind of, the penny drops, if you know what I mean. And
it becomes manifest.
It felt like, there you go, son, on about your business.
Yeah,
brilliant.
That's really, really cool. And I mean, growing up, you know, here in Derry, who were your influences, and what records really kicked that off for you?
Well, it was kicking off around me. I mean, I was really close to Kevin Williams. He was the lead singer in our band, and he really acted like the big brother to me. He had an encyclopedic knowledge of music, and he played me everything from like the Stones and the Beatles to Van Morrison. He also played the Eurythmics. We looked at Psychedelic Furs, lots and lots of really, really great bands. God, it was endless, but I was kind of awash in music, but he had the record collection. I didn't. I tended to spend my money on Action Men and model aircraft and building guitars and spraying them. I wasn't in that sort of head space. Yep. So he was a great influence for me. But my dad, bizarrely, was a Johnny Cash nut. I mean, sorry, Dad, but you are. And I went to see Johnny Cash when I was 9 because there was a spare ticket. So I ended up on this coach going up to the Grand Old Opry House in Belfast. So to see the big man come on, and it's just like Joaquin Phoenix did it in Johnny Cash. He goes, "Hi, I'm Johnny Cash," and the play just erupts, right? Like properly erupts. And I thought, why are the hairs standing in the back of my neck? What is this? And it was a quasi-religious experience, really. So between those two camps of indie music and country, I grew up. You know, and they used to have these nights down at our house in Carlisle, where my dad ran a place called the Hitching Post, which is a club for the American bass. So there's all these people in tassels and Stetsons, like, and the smell of makeup and smoke would have floored you, right? So I was immersed in that. So between those two camps, really, I found myself. But then later, when I moved to London, because I couldn't make it work here first, you know, as you know, the scene was decimated. He was always trying to get his head above water. I got into house music, so I kind of had three decades of immersion of different kinds of music.
Yeah. And I mean, that's all reflected in your own brew of music, if you will, with D Ream.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I grew up on rock music, and I grew up, you know, screaming above the PA. You know what it's like, because you have to be heard. So there's a certain register you have to be in. Yeah. And then when I went to London, the people I fell in with were all into soul and sort of early house and stuff like that. So I got a new baptism, as it were. So I had to find out that soulful element in my voice. It's still not quite. I'm not Al Green.
Who is?
No, Al Green is. Or was. But what I'm saying is, just to emulate those heroes, you know, that's what I started doing. So I started coming away from the rock scene, got into the soul, sort of the early sort of soul voice scene in London, you know, and went to the Wag Club, the early days of the Brain, and that's where I met my partner Alan. So I was out just dancing, gallivanting, and trying to find my way in there. And I found myself, because of the training I had in Derry with the with Ty the Boy, I found myself the only guy in the room who could put records together. So people were coming to me to make records.
Yeah.
And so I started working with Alan Mackenzie, my now partner in Dream. And that's where it was. It's gone from, I suppose, as I said, three different musical genres in one thing. It may come out in the music, I think, maybe, I don't know.
I think we do definitely hear that, and that's interesting that you've mentioned also being a producer, just to hit the nail on the head there. So you become, I always think of it like a Swiss Army knife. Nobody's gonna make the music that you want to unless you...
The way you want.
Exactly.
How many times have you sat there and like, what are you doing? I need to sound like that. Yeah. And you're the guy that's going, I have to go dubber dar, and they're going, what? And you're constant, unless you know what's going on in that room, you completely hoodwinked. Yeah. Right? And so I got to know what a compressor was, how a mixing desk worked, how multi-tracks. I was obsessed by it. I went and got some part-time work so I could pay for my equipment addiction and teach myself, how these things work, much like guitar. And so I just learned to make records from the ground up. But I think I got it to the stage now, and I don't want to brag, but the thing is, when I touch the song, I'm also playing in the record, and I'm thinking about how I'm already there. So within a few days, I can turn that into a record.
Absolutely.
So the distance between my imagination and realization is shortened immensely.
And I mean, that's you've been operating at a very, very high level, over a number of decades now, and that's a fundamental thing. That's a skill that never changes. You just hone it in, I guess.
Yeah. I suppose it's lovely now because it's not so much of a chore. You don't know where you're going with it, or it escapes your hands or your abilities, Yeah. And so much so that I love passing it on. I actually ended up, some friends dragged me into a few colleges in London, and they ended up talking to these young writers about it, and God, I really enjoyed that because these people are really engaged with the process. So for me, it was like, I can make suggestions how you can fix things, because I kind of know what the mistakes I've made I can pass on.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, on that point, you coming from a position of experience now, is there anything that you would always tell your younger self? Is there a key thing?
Yeah, stay away from drugs. Number one. I suppose secondly, I don't know. The one thing I regret is not being able to say no. What I mean is, when you're in the middle of your career, people go, "It's your career. You got to do this, right? Everyone's gonna hate you if you don't." And you're like, "Oh, okay." And what that means is like you're people pleasing the whole way down the line. And I really respect artists who can stand their ground, and I didn't. I was swayed. Labour are going to release the best. Things are going to be better. You better get behind it, or you're going to look stupid. Oh, okay. And not thinking the consequences of these things through. So you end up. I was swayed from pillar to post. I feel I'm much more grounded now, but I didn't know what I was doing. And the thing is, when I wasn't with my band, I had no one to kind of conflab with, it was just me going, how does this work? Yeah. And making lots of mistakes. So my biggest advice to myself would be learn how to say no and stick to it.
That's something that we can all learn from, not just music, but in other walks of life too, especially in the creative industry.
Because it's so easy to say yes to everything and try to be all things to all men, and before you know, you overstretched yourself and you're feeling that hollowness, and you're also feeling a bit shortchanged. I don't know. And then eventually it does fed into my self-confidence for years. After that whole the war in Iraq and my song being associated with it, I just went to ground. I just didn't know how to make that. Where do we go from there to there? I just couldn't draw the line. Yeah,
the song kind of took on a life of its own.
It's one of those. Someone called it an evergreen. You heard that expression before?
Yes.
And I was going, oh, okay, whatever. But then only recently during the Clap for Carers, at some bright spark, that would be a good idea to put that on a laser on a wall. They were outside singing that. And then I saw Jack Whitehall used it as toilet paper for a skit where he was having a go at Piers Morgan. You can see it, it's online somewhere. It just goes out there and does its own thing. And then, the best one was I saw was, this will kill you. There's a women's choir that's been put together in support of cancer, and they did their version. Obviously lockdown, so there's hundreds of them, and they did a version of it as well, and you're like, it just brings you to tears, because you think, my God, it's, I did that, I know what I did, but it's not mine anymore. It ceased to be that about 20 years ago.
That's an amazing thing about songs is that, you know, as you said, they
Yeah.
do take on a life of their own,
Yeah.
and that has become ingrained in the cultural psyche, you know,
Yeah.
as you say, for better or for worse, and most
Yep.
of the times, you know, excuse the pun, but it is for better.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think what we get from songs, I know, because we can't actually hold them, we can't see them, but there are little sort of time machines. They throw us back to that moment in time, but then they take on different significances. And you know, if I can almost remember a smell or a taste associated with a song or a person, mainly people, to be honest, and moments in time. You can remember when you first heard a song and what you were dancing to. You know, if you said Simple Minds, sometime, somewhere, sometime, I can see me with my mates hitting Croke Park in Dublin, watching them support U2 and thinking, I'm right back there. I'm 18, I'm wearing ill-fitting clothes and feeling I'm the nuts.
Yeah,
that's what they do. They're genuinely wonderful thing. And I treasure them. The older I get, the more sort of precious they become.
And with this new album now, with that knowledge, and with this, you know, this experienced understanding of what songs are.
Yes.
How have you? I mean, for the year that's in it, I mean, it would be, you know, if we didn't talk about it, it would be the elephant in the room for us now. But with lockdown and with so much of the work that goes into a new album campaign, and you mentioned as well that one of the tracks had been written, although not about lockdown, in lockdown.
Yeah.
How have you found? How have you found as a musician, as a songwriter, as a producer, this last over a year?
We're very privileged, to be honest, because having made my money, I could sit tight. I didn't need to borrow anything, but I also could sit tight. And you know, if you want me to stay at home, work from home. That's what I do anyway. And then I really feel my children. I left them back in London with their mum and her new partner, and they could only go out for an hour, and we'd be at the beach on our doorstep. We've got Donegal there, and it just, everyone's having different experiences, but I just basically, from March last year when the sun was shining, I went into my studio and I just started writing, and I wrote maybe 3-4 albums worth, and we drew a line under this one because we thought these are the songs we're enjoying, but there's so much more, and I've seen that quite common with other artists. So Elvis Costello had the same thing. Everyone, Katie Tunstall, Imogen Heap, they're all doing what they do. Do you know really what it is when I didn't know if it was Armageddon or not. We all didn't. Remember at the start of this?
Absolutely.
And I'm really surprised because to me it's like that thing again, that spiritual thing. You go into that place and you find solace in it, and that's, I think, well, I bet you did it.
I do, yeah, totally.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So
it's, you know, it's an escape for, I mean, musicians.
Absolutely.
You know, you go to the guitar to know how you feel and everything as well, and the song becomes a reflection of that. But
that's right.
You know, with this album, and we'll hear the newest track, Meet Me at Midnight, you know, as well. Can you tell us a bit about that song as well, please?
It wasn't intended to be like a COVID wish, but it started when I was looking at my kids and everyone else around me staring into screens. You know, have any of you checked your screen time recently? How much time you're on? I was going like maybe a couple of hours. It was 6 hours. I was like, wow. And I was going like, you know, if you could just get off these profiles and scrolls and just meet me in real life. That's what I really want to do. That's my ultimate wish. But meeting someone at midnight implies it's like a clandestine thing. It's against the rules. It's like sort of climbing out the back window, you know, because I really need to see you. So that's what it became about. But the timing's, look, the timing's good. But who knows what the future holds? We just do what we do.
We do what we do, but with that in mind as well, whenever you do get back to doing what you do best, you know, performing live and making records, is there anything in your head? You must have a light at the end of the tunnel. Is there a particular place that you want to play? Is there a particular experience as a musician that you want to have that will set you back to normality?
That's a good question as well. We want to get off the festival circuit, which they love us and we love them, and that's great. But you're on doing 5 songs, 10 songs, and you're part of a whole experience. But we want to get back to our own shows, and you know, we've got our eye on the prize in that regard. But I mean, what's happened to me recently in lockdown, I've learned how to use Final Cut Pro, so I've become much more of a visual artist in that I've been interested in gathering vignettes and stories, narratives, and weaving them into the song as well. So even I don't want to have anyone else's vision like a treatment, any of that stuff anymore. So that's been an obsession to me. So I really enjoy that. It's a whole new box of toys to play with.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's great.
It's really cool. It's a great skill set to have as well. So I guess this is the last question. This festival is called Off the Walls. Are there any off the walls traits that you yourself have? Is there anything that you do that you think is perfectly normal, but other people say that's weird?
There's so many. Oh, I don't know. Where's Ruth? Is she around? Could you answer that?
Oh, not in public.
No, not okay. There's nothing I can put on camera. No, like, you know, I'm Mr. Angry sometimes when I see what's going on. I get really upset, but that's when I can lose it as well, like anybody else. But I wouldn't be around a human being if I didn't have those emotions as well, you know. But as regards Doreen, is like this new album, Open Hearts, Open Minds. When I get together with Al, we don't want to hammer people. We don't want to tell them how to do things, or we all go to hell in a handcart. We're the opposite. Things going to be better is I'm standing in a toilet. It gets clean, don't worry. And it was Simon Climie one side and Bob Geldof the other. Now that's odd. You try having a pee between those guys, right? So Bob leans over to me and goes, "Did you write that song?" "Yes, I did." I said, "That's great, that is." He said, "You know, it's really hard to write a song that's cold, but also, you know, upply." I was going, "Thank you. It's really nice, you know." And that's kind of what we do. We know what we do now. We entertain people. We try and put a bit of that positivity, and you know, I'm a glass half full. You know, if you're with me, I know people don't like that. I don't care because I'm fed up with the doom and gloom and the strumming of the pain, and it's like it's just too much. that's what we find. We're at our best when we do that. So that's what this new album's about. It's real shot in the arm, I hope.
Yeah, I think that's what the world needs, isn't it?
What the world needs now is love, sweet love.
No better note to end it on. Peter Cunnah, thanks very much.
Thank you. Namaste.